We are living in an era of misinformation, or is it disinformation? There is a difference, and it's key. It festers in private Facebook groups.
And then it just takes on a life of its own.
It's even made its way into Oregon's Senate race.
And therefore, I stand with Q and the team.
And last night, it was out in full force.
It's been an interesting hour and a half.
On the debate stage.
It's a rigged election.
Here's the story. Misinformation or disinformation. We're going to say it's the misinformation or disinformation edition.
We are back. We are back. It feels good to be back. All right. And those words are going to bring us to our big story, which is all about disinformation and misinformation, because I think a lot of people think that misinformation and disinformation are identical, kind of like, I don't know, the Olsen twins. Like, we're not really quite sure why there are two of them, but there are, so we're just going to deal with it. But in reality, they're more like Will Ferrell and the drummer from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They might look a lot alike, but they're actually not even related. I know, I couldn't believe that either. They look like brothers. But there is a difference between misinformation and disinformation, and the difference lies in intent. See, misinformation is false information shared unintentionally, like your uncle sharing a fake article on Facebook or something like that. He probably just didn't take the time to do the research. He hit that share button after reading nothing more than a headline. But disinformation is more insidious. It is false information shared on purpose with the knowledge that it is false, which is a popular technique with online bots. And we saw lots of false information shared before, during, and after last night's debate. In the hours leading up to it, false rumors like this one started spreading that Vice President Biden was wearing a wire or an earpiece, which turned out to be a crease in his shirt and a rosary on his wrist. Others accused him of using performance-enhancing drugs, which Biden dismissed, apparently having fun with it by tweeting this picture of what he said was his actual earpiece and performance enhancers, earphones, and ice cream. Now, later during the debate, President Trump repeatedly pushed the lie that mail-in voting is rife with fraud. It is not. Oregon's Republican Secretary of State has said so over and over and over. So has Washington's. And today, hours after the debate ended, Trump tweeted that Biden refused to say the word law and order during their back and forth about Portland protests. But, you know, they record these things, so it's on video, and he did.
Violent crime. Are you in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow it.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go
yes,
ahead.
I'm in favor.
You asked a question, let him finish.
Law and order.
Law and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly.
Okay.
Now, look, we can debate whether that is misinformation or disinformation, because for all we know, people truly believed Biden was wearing a wire and thought that they were benefiting people by sharing that. Or Trump just didn't hear Biden say law and order, which I guess is possible. I don't know. But in the end, does it matter? Does any of that matter? Because true or not, it still made its way into our news feeds. But disinformation and misinformation doesn't get started on the debate stage. See, far too often it starts in one of the countless private Facebook groups that maybe you belong to that have popped up in the recent years. See, some of these groups have tens of thousands of members and virtually no oversight at all about what gets posted, which is why Kristen Severance found out they are ripe for conspiracy theories.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It seems to get worse by the day.
Oh my God, it's our house.
Homes, lives, entire towns.
Just everything along 22 is just gone.
Just gone. Here's the story.
I'm Dan Haggerty. Thank you for being with us. Not kind of the normal start to our show. We typically have the music, flashy graphics, none of that tonight. None of the other local news cliches you're used to seeing. We're way beyond that. And I need to say right at the very top here, before we get started, if you are in an area close to these fires, please monitor your emergency officials. If you have to go, you need to go. So do that. And remember, this is not just a rural Oregon thing. All of Clackamas County is under some kind of evacuation notice right now. All of Clackamas County, think about that. Look at the map here. The chunks in green are under a level 1. That means to be ready, to pack a bag, to know that you might have to go. And that is Oregon City, Lake O, Wilsonville, all those places. But the red is level 3. That means stop what you're doing and leave now. And that includes all of Estacada. If you live in Estacada, you need to evacuate your home right now. These red zones just grew actually within the last hour, just to give you an idea of how fast things are changing and happening. And I want to show you a different kind of map right now. This is a satellite image from the Bureau of Land Management of Oregon and Washington. And as dramatic as it is to see the fire and the video from the ground and the damage that we've seen, it is important to zoom out a little bit and look at the big picture. See, Oregon is dealing with several mega fires, and that means that those are fires that are burning more than 100,000 acres. In 120 years, we have never had more than 2 mega fires in a single year. Right now, depending on how you count, we have 3 or 4 burning simultaneously. Our state is in trouble right now. Governor Brown called it unimaginable, and today the unimaginable happened. We learned just after 4 that 2 people have been killed in the Santiam fire east of Salem. The little boy you see on the left there, he's 12 years old. He was found dead with his dog near his home in Lyons. His name is Wyatt. That's where the Santiam fire is burning right now. His grandmother, Peggy, on the right, she also died. Governor Brown said it perhaps clearer than anybody so far. She said this could be the greatest loss of human lives and property due to wildfire in our state's history. If you follow me on social media, you know on Sunday night I posted on Facebook that I was headed to Estacada, a town that right now is still smoldering. I wanted to connect with people and share their stories. So I started my week with them on Monday morning. I do want to thank everybody who helped kind of comment and tag their friends and let them know I was coming. Helped me meet some really amazing people there because we went back behind the fire lines with neighbors who are still in a stage 3 evacuation. And your feedback led me directly to this story, which I think sums up the people of Estacada pretty well and the nightmare they're sharing.
Sometimes you can tell the story of an entire community on just one street, but you need the right guide. Ours was known simply as Bonsai, a welcoming person on a road that's grown wary of strangers.
This is our spread right over here. You can see right in the corner between the barn and the house, a huge shipping container storage shed thing melted. There's little hot spots burning everywhere. Oh, yo, this house is okay. And all the forest right there was on fire, and it stopped right at our doorstep.
The first doorstep he took us to.
The miracle is how the fire came right up to the edge of his yard over here.
Belonged to another person with just one name, Nako.
It's hard to stay away from it, you know, when it's your whole life.
I should probably mention he's a famous musician and headman for Nako and Medicine for the People, a band with tens of millions of plays on Spotify.
So that's my house right up there, and the fire came and stopped right here along the path.
And he nearly lost everything.
It's like 4th of July up in here.
Wow, look at that fire.
Nako didn't evacuate right away, decided instead for sleepless nights trying to protect his place.
There, you can see the stacks of buckets all over the place. There's one right around the corner too. Buckets and jugs of water that we're filling up from this little pond over here. It's a tiny pond, just like the size of a kiddie pool.
Amazing how quickly you use your bucket.
They're not sure how much the buckets helped, but the home was spared.
Yeah.
This is very close to my house. It's probably about 100 yards away. Yeah.
Do you feel like you dodged a bullet here? Because I feel like that bullet came pretty close.
Oh, absolutely.
3 houses on the street did burn. Bonsai led us to one of them, a property at the end of the road, and an owner who's trying to make sense of what's left.
And burned everything. The boat melted. We had a car in the garage. It's sitting underneath that rubble there. You can kind of see the boat trailer inside the rubble there.
Eric told me the fire moved in so quickly that evacuation orders jumped from 1 to 3, and he left without grabbing anything.
Oh, it was unbelievably hot.
The fire took everything he owned, except for an unlikely blessing.
I cannot believe that home you're building is standing.
How? We can walk down there. I'll show you the fire that went around it. You can see the fire came all the way through here and went all the way around.
The framework of his dream house, built by his own hands, hardly has a scratch, even as the home next door burned to ash. Even this fallen tree refused to hit the wall as it crashed down. What do you, I mean, just a little bit of luck.
God, it wasn't supposed to burn. How could it not? It's all kiln-dried lumber. It's ready to go up like a match. And it didn't burn. And everything else did. I can't explain it. It was a miracle, an absolute miracle.
And while Eric leans on faith, the street relies on each other.
We all need to hold each other up and say, we're here for you. And
We have a tight little community in this neighborhood.
Bonsai sent out a neighborhood text when the flames got close.
I wrote to them, hey everyone, I'm so sorry to say that it seems like the worst case scenario is here. All the fire trucks are parked here in town. It seems like they had to retreat. Sorry for the bad news, everyone. Let's stay in touch.
I'll be the earth that grounds you from the chaos all around. I'll be the home you return to. I can be your middle ground.
It's been an emotional experience.
As a reminder.
Not necessarily sad. A lot like some of Nako's music. There's a hopeful sense on this street, and with the people living on it, that soon the smoke will clear for a better path through Estacada. I should mention a very talented photographer here at KGW, Kurt Austin, worked on that piece with me. And I want to thank everybody who you met in it, who opened up and let us into their lives during this very vulnerable time. If you think that there's a story that we need to tell, that you want me to know about, you know how to find me. Just use that hashtag, HeyDan. Things in Portland are getting worse, not better. Someone has now been killed in our streets. There's no sign the violence is ending anytime soon. So now what? We took some questions to an expert who's been studying these protests since the beginning.
My prediction is that there's no end in sight. If anything, things will get worse.
Well, great. And not to be overshadowed, but we want to remember a Blazers legend who really made a mark both on and off the court. Here's the story. I'm Dan Haggerty. Welcome to The Story. I'll just tell you right away, I've been struggling since Saturday to find the words for this moment. I mean, before then, actually, because sadly, I think we all assumed we would be here eventually where somebody was killed during all of this, but I still don't really have the words. I mean, I have my opinions. You can just ask my wife or my dad. I haven't shut up about my opinions, but I'll be honest, they're pretty diluted in anger and frustration, so I'm going to keep them to myself for now. My instinct, honestly, though, is to blame someone, which is a pretty common instinct. It's a lot easier that way. I mean, just look at the statements we've seen from some of our politicians and our leaders. It's everybody else's fault, but that is not what woke me up in the middle of the night last night. You know, I woke up thinking about this show, you know, the one with my name on it back here, and all of the people at home that trust in us and watch us, and all the smart people who have something to say about the coverage here. And I wondered to myself, you know, could I have done something differently? Did I ask the right questions, interview the right people, hold the right people accountable, hold them accountable enough, or worse, you know, did something I say or some of the coverage we put on the air here incite people in any way? And I just don't know. I don't. I mean, I think about it. I think we should all think like that right now. And I'm talking to the politicians and the people running for office and really anybody with an opinion and an internet connection. Are you using your words responsibly? Can you make your point about what's going on in this city and in this country without making the situation worse? Are you being fair or just being frustrated? I tell you every night on this show that you have a say, that your words matter, especially now. Your emails and your questions, they help us frame our coverage and tell your story. So send us those emails at thestory@kgw.com. Find me on Facebook and Instagram, or use Twitter and the hashtag HeyDan. So we should start tonight, I think, by talking about, of course, what happened Saturday night and what we know, because there's a lot of misinformation floating around. And honestly, in situations like this, where someone has been killed, shot and killed, it can be dangerous to identify the wrong people. So here is what we know. Just a few hours ago, police identified the guy who got shot and who died. This is 39-year-old Aaron Danielson of Portland. Joey Gibson, who is the leader of Patriot Prayer, says that he was a good friend and a supporter of that far-right group. And Patriot Prayer was part of that pro-Trump caravan that drove into downtown that night.
Now, right now, as far as that is concerned, surrounding this man, that's all we really have confirmed. Now, here's what we don't know. Now, while we do know, again, that this happened between a fight between left and right groups, we don't know if that's actually what caused this, if it was directly a result of those clashes. Possibly it was an ongoing beef between two people or something totally random. I mean, we can speculate, but we just don't know for sure right now. Also, police haven't identified the shooter. They can find a lot of unconfirmed information on Twitter, but this isn't Twitter. Regardless, Portland is about as viral as you can get right now. The whole country is talking about us. I get a text maybe once a week from an out-of-state friend asking if I'm okay. I mean, they think that the city is in ruins or something. And because we are so close to an election, this has become a huge campaign issue on both sides. I mean, it's hard to believe in a lot of ways that one of the most non-swingish states in the country is suddenly ground zero for campaign fodder. These past 24 hours, President Trump and Joe Biden have talked about the violence in Portland through press conferences and social media posts. Both have condemned the shooting, but in different ways, with Biden accusing President Trump of stoking tensions and with the president accusing Mayor Ted Wheeler of not having control over his city. If you look at national outlets, you will see the same kinds of headlines on every website imaginable, basically framing all of this as Trump versus Wheeler, right versus left. We have a bunch of national reporters who are in town now, and at the mayor's press conference yesterday, reporters from those national media outlets only really asked Mayor Wheeler questions about the president's attacks on him. And as we get closer to Election Day, I'm pretty sure you're going to start seeing political ads using video from Portland if they're not out there already. Here's the thing, though. For those of us who actually live in Portland or near this city or work in this city, we know that the city isn't completely in ruins, and everyone knows that I'm just fine. We're not really looking at the nightly violence on our streets through the lens of a presidential election, but perhaps we should, because it matters now a lot. There are swing states with millions of voters watching this city, and what happens here could play a role in who they vote for. Portland has become a swing city, albeit unconventionally. So what are our leaders doing about it? Pointing fingers, a lot of them for the most part, with more calls for the mayor to resign. Meanwhile, Governor Brown says that she now has a plan that involves law enforcement from around the region. Problem, though. And to discuss it, let's bring in Pat Dorse to talk about this, because now she's getting a lot of pushback on that move. Pat, what can you tell us?
Right, Dan. Well, the plan is relatively quickly falling apart. The governor is going to send state troopers to the city to help with some of the violence. She can't control that. She also asked Clackamas and Washington County Sheriff's offices to come help as well. About a half hour ago, they each said, no, we are not going to.
Oregon legislators passed 3 whole bills this past session, thanks to another Republican walkout. The question now, can they get at least a little more done during a special session in 2 days? And the Bomber restaurant in Milwaukee is grounded forever. So we're going back into the KGW vault to give it a proper send-off. And our friends at Nightly News have been doing their part, bringing the news to a new generation of viewers. Tonight, we're opening up our mailbag to see what's on the minds of our kid viewers. Here's the story. Kids Edition.
I wanted to open the show like Mr. Rogers, do my shoes and all that kind of stuff, but I don't have that kind of charisma. I'm Dan Haggerty. How are you? Welcome to The Story. I really love getting messages from people every night who say, I've made a Twitter account specifically so we can talk to you on this show, or people who will write in and say, I've never emailed a news show before. I would never do that. It's not who I am. In the meantime, here's my take on tonight's big story. I love it. It proves to me that we are proving to you that we actually listen to you every night and that we incorporate what you have to say into our newscast because we think it is really, really important. So please keep that coming because it drives what we do here. Find me on Instagram and Facebook. Email us at thestory@kgw.com or use Twitter and that hashtag HeyDan. And if you don't know what a hashtag is, don't worry. Ask your kids. Trust me, they know, at least for now, because now that I'm using it, the window of coolness is closing and closing fast. But look, there's no secret that the audience of local news skews a little bit older. Maybe it's because with age, you get more interested in the world around you, or maybe the difficulties of life combined with time make me more bearable. I'm not sure. Either way, I was really, really surprised and excited early on in doing the show to learn that we had a very small but mighty contingent of young viewers. And today, I want to start out the show just for them. And we're taking a little inspiration from our partners at NBC. This is The Story, Kids Edition.
All right, so Lester Holt and the Nightly News team, they've been doing this great job of answering questions that kids have, you know, talking to mom and dad about the coronavirus or the protests that have been happening, we've been watching in cities around the country. So we wanted to see what kind of questions do our kid viewers have. Katie Kerr messaged me on Instagram and said, "Hey Dan, my parents are obsessed with your show and they force me to watch it every night. My show is a punishment. Can you cover the story about the owner of the Camas Hotel setting a fire in one of the rooms to get insurance money?" Allegedly. Katie, thank you very much. Okay, so Lester Holt gets questions about, I don't know, the best way to celebrate Juneteenth, and our kid viewers want to know about arson investigations. Fair enough. That's fine. Katie, thank you for the question. Good one. Last Wednesday, the manager of the Camas Hotel in downtown Camas apparently started a fire in an empty room while 15 guests were checked into various other rooms in that hotel. He set the fire at about 9 o'clock in the morning, so most people were still starting their day. Some people weren't even awake yet. There was a guest on the 3rd floor, heard the smoke alarm, called 911, grabbed a fire extinguisher, and put out the fire. Now, police think the manager was trying to collect some insurance money here, and they arrested him, but it sounds like there could be a whole lot more to this story. We're just still waiting to hear what investigators have to say next. For now, that is all we know. But if you have any more burning questions, let me know. A little dad humor for the kids there. That brings us now to 7-year-old Oscar, who wanted to know, I love the spelling on this, "Hey Dan, when will people get to go on vacation again?" I believe that is the proper spelling for vacation in some Nordic countries. Thank you, Oscar. I know how you feel, big guy. I feel it too. As beautiful as it is here in the Pacific Northwest, it would be nice to get a little change of venue, a brief one, and I'm betting that the cheap airfare is looking pretty alluring to mom and dad. Now, the answer I have for you depends on your idea of a vacation. See, traveling out of the country is a big frowny face right now, bud. The U.S. State Department says to avoid it. There is a level 4 global health advisory. Not to mention the guidelines in every country, they change so quickly that the start of your vacation and the end could have different travel rules. So for now, bud, you're going to have to wait to see Rome. Welcome back to The Story. I'm Dan Haggerty. Now, look, I love how many people write in. They write us all the time using the hashtag #HeyDan every night, or they email us at thestory@kgw.com. Keep that coming. But to be perfectly honest with you, there are a lot of comments and questions and things like that that we just can't get to. And it's not necessarily because we don't have time, but we just don't have a response. And that was never more clear than when we got emails like these. Here's one from Kurt. "Got anything on the exploding whale from 50 years ago?" Or Linda, "How about showing the explosion?" I would love to see that again. I'm a little worried about you, Linda. So here's the thing. 50 years ago, on Monday, ODOT blew up a whale in Florence, Oregon. And that's not a metaphor. That's not hyperbole. They literally stuffed a beach sperm whale with explosives and detonated it. And the video of the explosion has become kind of legendary. And I totally understand why you would want to see it again. But there's this one little tiny problem. See, KGW doesn't own the rights to that video. Our fellow Portland news station, K2, owns it, and they want to hold on to that. They don't want to share it. I don't blame them. I'll also never forget. But we have one thing that K2 does not, and that's a new segment called No Video, No Problem. One sec. It's right here. I'll just get it. That's the whale. That's the ocean. Now, the whale came up onto shore. It wasn't smiling because it was dead. But they didn't know what to do with it. So they thought, well, maybe we should just push it back into the water. But you can't do that, because if you get like a bulldozer and you try to push something that big that's dead, it's just going to puncture the blubber and make a huge mess. Then they thought, well, maybe we'll just bury it down here in the sand. Well, you can't do that either, because it's just going to smell to high heavens and it's going to attract all kind of animals and critters and stuff. So they figured, well, then the only obvious thing to do is blow it up. So they brought in a bunch of dynamite, and they put dynamite around it. They put dynamite inside of it, and they blew this thing up all over the place. It looked like something from a Michael Bay movie. Not only that, a bunch of people had showed up, and they were standing nearby going, oh my gosh, what are they going to do with this whale? Can you believe they're going to blow it up? Which they then witnessed happen and got rained down upon with whale stuff and blubber and whale bones and all kind of gross stuff. And that's the story of when we blew up a whale. And that's no video, no problem.